Welcome to today's session, and we're really excited to share this content with you today. School nutrition is a valuable partner in education, pledging to provide coordinated support for outstanding student achievement through our commitment to excellent service in each of these core areas. They are quality meals, student and community engagement, and professional development. Our presenters for today are our compliance specialists. I want to invite them on really quickly just to wave. We have Sarah Combs, Trey Cowan, Lydia Martin, and Stephanie Taylor. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lydia so she can get us jump started with those learning objectives. Lydia?
All right, thanks, Ro. So in today's training, we're going to identify the requirements to operate the Seamless Summer Option, or SSO, define area eligibility, describe the service methods that are available, and list the steps for SSO site approval. So the first topic we're going to discuss is the requirements to operate a Seamless Summer Option, or SSO, program. First, the purpose of the Seamless Summer Option, or SSO, is to ensure that students in low-income areas continue to receive meals during traditional summer vacation periods and for year-round school during vacation periods that are longer than 10 school days. SSO is available for districts that participate in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program, and the Seamless Summer Option features aspects of the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, and the Summer Food Service Program regulations. SSO reduces the paperwork and the administrative burden that is normally associated with operating multiple programs, and it operates under many of the same regulations, procedures, and policies that you currently operate under during the regular school year. Since the purpose of the program is to ensure that students have access to meals during the summer when school meals are not available, a site must operate and provide meals for at least 4 days during the summer in order to be approved by the state agency to operate. Under the Seamless Summer Option provision, meals are available to all children 18 years or under. Students under 21 years of age with a mental or physical disability may also receive free meals. If you're running a site that is open or restricted open and it employs staff younger than 18, then those staff may also receive a meal at no cost. However, if the site is a closed enrolled site and there are staff under 18 working in that site, then they may not receive a free meal because the participation is limited to those enrolled students. Now let's discuss what qualifies as a site. Only school food authorities administering the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program may participate in the Seamless Summer Option. However, the state agency may approve SFAs to operate non-school feeding sites using the Seamless Summer Option. Sites may be located in schools or at a non-school facility, such as buildings like libraries or community centers, parks, or other outdoor locations, and mobile feeding sites. All sites must be area eligible and must provide at least 4 days worth of meals during the duration of that site. And in most cases, sites must operate as an open, advertised site, providing meals on a first-come, first-served basis to all children 18 and under. So let's talk about area eligibility. There are 4 ways to determine area eligibility. Each site is looked at individually. This also includes any CEP schools. The first method that you can use is to use your current year free and reduced priced lunch report that's reported in October. And if the site is 50% free or reduced, then it is area eligible. If it is not 50% free or reduced, there are some other options that may be used to qualify that site as area eligible. Schools that participate in CEP or Provision 2 are not automatically considered area eligible. Eligibility is based on each school's individual information. The school must utilize the individual site's identified student percentage, or ISP, on the current CEP determination worksheet to determine site's eligibility when using CEP. If the site is part of a group or a district claiming percentage, you still need to locate the individual site's ISP from that determination worksheet. Those individual sites' ISP must be at least 31.25 to be considered area eligible, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. SFAs that operate Provision 2 for both breakfast and lunch may use either the site's base year data for their enrolled students, or they can use the census data from the USDA mapper, which we're going to talk about next. So census data may be used to determine eligibility. To use census data, 50% or more of children on a census block group must be eligible for free or reduced price meals. A tool to determine area eligibility using the census data can be found on the web address that's located here on the screen, and that is the USDA Area Eligibility Mapper. And then sites are also considered area eligible when they are located within the geographical boundaries of a school attendance area with at least 50% of its children approved for free or reduced price meals. Site eligibility is based on the location of each site, and sites may include, as I've mentioned before, schools or non-school facilities, including buildings, parks, and other outdoor locations and mobile feeding sites that are area eligible. Site eligibility can be based on another school in the same attendance area. So in the next few slides, we're going to go through some examples of what that looks like. Area eligibility is good for 5 years, so sites do not need to redetermine eligibility every year. When requesting to operate Seamless Summer in the state agency online software, we do ask that you indicate which year the eligibility is based upon if it's different than the current year. And that would be placed in the comments. So looking at the CEP example again, for CEP schools, you would not use the FRL or the free and reduced lunch report from October. You will take the individual ISP from the current CEP determination worksheet and multiply that times the 1.6 multiplier. There are 2 examples here on the screen. A school with an ISP of 31.25 or higher times the 1.6 multiplier would qualify as area eligible because that's going to give you 50%. Anything lower than that would not be area eligible. And if you look at the other example on the slide, the school 1, where the ISP is only 28.63, and then multiplied out times the 1.6 multiplier is 45.8%, and that would not be area eligible, even though it is a CEP school. So when using the attendance area of an eligible school to qualify a school that is less than 50% free or reduced, the site must be physically located in the attendance zone of the school that is 50% free or reduced or more. Feeder schools are not automatically qualified as area eligible just because the student came from a certain school or will eventually go to another school that is area eligible. Feeder schools, that information does not apply. It has to be physically located in that attendance zone. So we have an example here on the screen. Flowery Branch High School is the blue dot that's located inside that purple shading. The school wants to operate a Seamless Summer site. However, it is not area eligible on its own. This school's free and reduced percentage is 44.59%. However, it is located in the attendance area of Martin Elementary, which is 67.54% free and reduced. And the attendance zone for Martin Elementary is shown on the map here, outlined in that blue-green color inside the purple shading. So you see that blue dot is located within that attendance zone. Because the high school is geographically located inside the attendance zone for Martin Elementary, then Flowery Branch High School qualifies as area eligible and may operate an SSO site. Now we're going to look at an example of a community site. So here, again, community sites may be area eligible if they are geographically located in the attendance zone of an area eligible school. The site circled in red is the community site that wants to operate a seamless summer program. It is located in the attendance zone of Hardway High School. This attendance zone is shown on the map here in green, and you see that that site that's circled in red is located within that green attendance zone area, and the free and reduced for Hardway High School is 64.88% free and reduced. So the community site would be considered area eligible based on being located in the attendance area of Hardway High School. So we talked about the USDA area eligibility mapper, and this is what it would look like. So to use the census data, you will go to the mapper online and you will enter the address of the site that you're wanting to operate and click search. If that site, if the address shows up in the red area, it is area eligible. If it shows up in the blue area, then it is not area eligible. Next, let's look at mobile routes. So one important thing to know about mobile routes is that each one of the stops must be area eligible by either using the school attendance zone or census data mapping to determine if it qualifies. You can use different data for different stops. For instance, one may be based on the USDA area eligibility mapper and another may be based on a school attendance area. But each stop must qualify as area eligible in order to operate. Maintaining documentation is very important. You need to maintain documentation that demonstrates how each site's area eligibility was determined and keep that on file. For a school that is greater than or equal to 50% free or reduced, you may only need to provide the FRL report to your AC. For a school that is less than 50% free or reduced, or for a community site that's located in the attendance area of an eligible school, you must provide the attendance area map of the eligible school and where the site is located inside that attendance zone to your AC. When using census data, you must provide a screenshot of the site from the USDA area eligibility mapper, showing that it is in the red area, and this also needs to be attached in snow. Now I'm going to pass it to Sarah, who's going to walk us through some activities to reinforce what we've just discussed.
Thank you, Lydia. So as Lydia said, now let's review a few activities to apply whether or not a site is area eligible or not. All right, so the first one, you're going to use your reaction buttons for this. So using this, this one shows the USDA area eligibility mapper to look up the address. And this site is located in the blue, right on the edge of a red area. So is this site eligible? Use a thumbs up if you think yes, and a surprise face if no. Okay, great job, everybody. I see a lot of surprise faces, and that is correct. It is located in the blue. It would literally just need to move across the street to be an eligible site. So it is important that the site location itself be considered area eligible. So that would be the way to make that site eligible, would be to move it across the street, and then it would be in an area eligible area and be allowable. All right, so now we're going to look at the attendance area of some different schools and determine of these schools, which one are eligible to participate. We're opening up the chat box for this. So we're using the free and reduced percentages and the attendance area to determine which are the eligible schools. So the blue area, so the dark blue area of this entire picture is the attendance area of Liberty Middle School. And then you see that shaded light blue is the attendance area for Rancho Siena Elementary. The kind of orange peachy color is the attendance area for Burden Elementary School, and the green is the attendance area for Liberty Hill Elementary School. And as you can see on the slide, Liberty Middle School is 46.5% free and reduced. Burden Elementary is 60.5%. Liberty Hill is 44%, and Rancho Siena Elementary is 51%. So go ahead and type in the chat box which of these schools are eligible to participate. Okay, great. So I'm seeing a lot of answers in there, and some of you have the full picture. So what I'm seeing is a lot of the Burden Elementary School and the Rancho Siena, which are both over 50% on their own, and you are correct with those. But also, Liberty Middle School is also eligible as a site because it is physically located in the attendance area of Burden Elementary School. So you see that orange area, Liberty Middle School is located in that orange area. And so Burden Elementary is 60.5%. So that makes Liberty Middle School area eligible because it's located in the attendance area. So the only one that's not eligible of these four sites is the Liberty Hill Elementary School. And that is because its free and reduced percentage is 44%, and it is not located in the attendance area of an eligible school. So great job, everybody. Let's discuss the next example. All right, so this is a little bit more complex of an example. So for this one, the attendance area, all of these different shaded areas is the attendance area of one high school. And there's two middle schools. So like I said, the entire map is the attendance area for the high school. The black line down the middle shows the attendance area for each middle school. So, and then the colored sections are the different elementary schools. So Roosevelt Elementary School and Washington Elementary School are in the attendance area of the Monroe Middle School. And then Franklin Elementary and Hamilton Elementary and Lincoln Elementary are in the attendance area of the Madison Middle School. So we see that the free and reduced percentage for the high school is 50.1. Monroe Middle is 40%, and the schools underneath it, Roosevelt is 31%, Washington Elementary is 65%, and then Madison Middle School is 60.5%. And each of the elementary schools listed, Franklin is 46.5, Hamilton 44, and Lincoln 61. And I see a lot of responses in the chat box with all of them are eligible, and that is correct. Great job, everyone. So the high school is 50% or greater. And so that makes all of the sites area eligible because they are all located in the attendance area of the high school. So great job, everyone. And then the last one before we pause for questions is using your reaction button. So thumbs up for true and a surprise face for false. All sites, including the stops on a mobile route, must be located in the attendance area of an eligible school or found on the USDA area eligibility mapper. Wonderful. I see so many thumbs ups, and that is exactly correct. All of those sites must be area eligible for them to participate. Great job. So at this point, we will pause for questions. So please go ahead and type your questions in the chat box.
Yes, so we've reached our first question break. Go ahead and take an opportunity to type those questions in the chat so we can respond accordingly. We did get one question already. Do districts, including CEP districts, have to submit area eligibility?
I touched on that through my section. So the CEP districts, what you have to do is you have to look at your current determination worksheet and look at the ISP for each individual school site and multiply that times the 1.6 multiplier to get the percentage. And if the site is physically located, if it's not a school site, if the site is physically located in the attendance area of one of those sites where the ISP times the 1.6 is 50% or greater, then it is considered to be area eligible.
Okay, we did get another. If a student is working at a school site, is he eligible to eat at no cost?
As long as that site is an open site, yes, that student is eligible to eat at that site. If it is a closed enrolled site, then the student would not be eligible because the student wouldn't be enrolled in that site. So if the open sites, then absolutely that student can eat.
Thanks, Ro. We're going to get started talking about site types. So there are different types of sites that may be operated during summer feeding. USDA does recommend that the majority of sites operate as open sites because that is really reflective of the intent of the summer meals program, which is to provide meals at no cost to children when school is not in session. However, there are some additional types of sites that you may be able to operate if it fits the situation. So for our open sites, meals are going to be made available to all children in an area on a first come, first served basis. And of course, the site must be area eligible. And in that case, all the meals served will be reimbursed at the free rate. A restricted open site is only allowed when it is necessary to restrict attendance due to security, safety, or control. So the site must publicize as being open on a first come, first served basis to all children in an area, but that participation will be limited. Again, the site must be area eligible, and in this case, meals would again be reimbursed at the free rate. There are 3 additional types of sites that are available, but these will only be available for an identified group of children. So it's not open to all children under 18 years old. These sites require justification for why the SFA is sponsoring the site. And the first one is a closed enrolled site. And closed enrolled sites can be used for schools where at least 50% of the children enrolled at the site are approved for free and reduced price meals, or the location is within the geographical area where 50% of the children are approved for free or reduced price meals. It is for a specific group of children participating in a program or an activity. And as a reminder, an academic summer school cannot be a closed enrolled site. However, enrichment programs that are offered at the school can be a closed enrolled site, and we're going to discuss that in a little more detail on the next slide. Camps can be residential or non-residential, and a non-residential would be like a day camp. The eligibility must be established for children that are enrolled in the camp, and then camps can claim up to 3 meals per day. So it's the only type of site that can claim more than 2, but it's up to 3 per day. The migrant sites are primarily serving children of migrant families through age 18 that are as certified by that migrant coordinator. The SFA must provide certification from the migrant organization sponsoring the site that the site primarily serves children of migrant workers. And again, these are types of sites must have an explanation as to why the SFA is sponsoring it. So just as we stated on the previous slide, closed enrolled sites serve only an identified group of children through age 18 who are participating in a specific program or activity. The site must be area eligible, which means it is a school with a free and reduced percentage of 50% or more, or the site is located in the attendance zone of a school with a free and reduced percentage of 50% or more. Or at least 50% of the children enrolled in this site are approved as eligible for free or reduced price meals. There must be an explanation provided when the site is set up. And then your academic summer schools where students receive credit, so like that traditional academic summer school, cannot operate as a closed enrolled site. However, a summer enrichment program where students are eligible to enroll may operate as a closed enrolled site. So districts can offer summer meals at both their school sites and community locations. And we discussed the different types of sites. So where in the community can sites be located? And you really have a lot of flexibility. They can be in multiple places. Some examples of those are provided on the slide there for you. We've also seen other examples, such as maybe at the community pool, or at a parks and rec, other types of areas and within the community that would have access to a lot of children. So you'll have to think maybe outside the box and find some of those community locations that would serve children in need. So school locations are a great opportunity to provide meals during the summer. And we know many times an academic summer school may be in operation within the building. And as a reminder, the academic summer school cannot operate as a closed enrolled site. However, a site with an academic summer school can operate as an open site. So a school site with an academic summer school can allow for staggered meal service times. So it is open to the community as well as to the summer school students, but just at different times. It is extremely important to remember to advertise the meal service times that are open to the community. And the same meal service must be provided to both groups, the students attending the academic summer school as well as the community, for the same length of time. But do remember that summer enrichment programs offered at the school where all students are eligible to enroll may operate as a closed enrolled site. And if you have additional questions about that, you can reach out to your area consultant. And remember, community sites are a great opportunity for you to showcase your program and to serve meals to students during the summer. A community site is eligible if it is located in the attendance area of a school with at least 50% or more free and reduced. And then the site must operate for at least 4 days in length. These days do not need to be consecutive, however. And mobile feeding is where meals are transported to children rather than requiring children to travel to the meal service location. So in mobile feeding, the SFA delivers meals to an area using a route with a series of stops at approved sites in the community. Then each stop on the route must be area eligible. The meal service must take place on approved days, and then the SFA must serve reimbursable meals during the approved meal service times. A site supervisor must be present at each meal service. Mobile sites may operate as a full service route, and that means the site supervisor travels with the vehicle along the route and supervises the site at each stop. Or it could be where meals are delivered to each stop with an on-site supervisor waiting to receive the meals. Site supervisors must remain on site during the entire approved meal service time, regardless of the attendance. And a great option for mobile routes is using a school bus. And we know a lot of our districts in Georgia have implemented this type of a site during the summertime. And students are able to board the bus at each stop, eat their meal in an air-conditioned space, and then leave. So let's look at an example of a mobile route. The mobile route is shown in green on the slide. And this route has 6 stops that are located in the attendance area of 3 schools. And so those 3 schools are Burden Elementary with a free and reduced rate of 60.5%. and that is in the kind of peach color is its attendance zone. Then you have Liberty Hill Elementary, and its free and reduced rate is 44%, and its attendance zone is in that green area. And then Ranch Sienna Elementary School is 51% free and reduced, and it has a blue attendance zone area. So my question is, are all the stops along this particular route eligible? You can use your reaction buttons, a thumbs up if you think all the stops are eligible, and a surprise face if you think they're not. All right, I see lots of surprise faces coming in. That's great. So just which stop is not eligible, and that is going to be stop 6, because it is located in Liberty Hill's attendance area, which is less than 50%. Now with our mobile routes that are using buses, remember that you have to actually stop and remain present while the children eat their meal, and then the children may only take one item off-site. All right, we have one quick activity before we pause for a question break, and you'll use your reaction buttons here as well, a thumbs up for true or a surprised face for false. An academic summer school can be a closed enrolled site. For the most part, I see lots of surprised faces, which is correct. Your academic summer school cannot operate as a closed enrolled, because remember, your closed enrolled sites only service a specific number of or specific group of children for a program or activity. You can't serve anyone else outside of that. Those children who are enrolled in the program, and so therefore it cannot be a closed enrolled site. The academic summer school, it must, if you're going to operate, you could operate that as an open site. And I think now it's time to pause for another question break.
Okay, so we did get one question. I can feed the students that come to school and deliver to those that are not in camp.
Again, that's going to depend on the type of site that you have. If you're talking like an open site where students can come to the school and then deliver to those who are not in the camp, I'm not real sure.
Maybe it's a mobile routes type of situation, like doing the open site at a school and then a mobile route. So it's really just going to depend on what.
Because
okay,
that's right. Yes, very good, Sarah. Yeah, thank you for deciphering that for us. So yeah, so you could have the school could be your mobile route. I'm sorry, the school could be your open site where students are coming to or children are coming to eat. But with the mobile route, remember that the school is not the site. The school would be, you make a claim under the school, your for your monthly claim, but the stops along the route are going to be your sites for that mobile route.
Okay, another question on mobile routes. The kids still must eat in our presence, right?
Yes, for traditional seamless summer, yes, that is correct. And we'll get into some other stuff in just a minute, but for regular seamless summer, yes, they have to eat on the bus.
The next question was.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, okay. It says related to restricted open, and then the community children eating at the same time in spaces. Kids eating at an academic summer school. And so Stephanie described this in a lot of detail. With this situation, you would have it as an open site, and you can stagger the times and have your academic summer school students eating at a different time than those in the community, for like safety reasons and all of that. It would not be a restricted open site though. It would be restricted open is only for like safety or size constraint. It's not to be able to do like academic summer school. You'd have to leave it as an open site, but you could stagger the times for those students to eat at different times. They just have to get the same meal.
Thank you, Ro. Yeah, so next we're going to look at rural non-congregate sites and talk about some of the flexibilities that are available for these sites. And we're going to walk through how you would establish rural determination for these sites. So first, some definitions. Congregate meal service means that meals are provided to children and they're consumed on-site in a supervised setting. This is historically what the traditional SSO site operations have been before COVID waivers or any of the flexibilities. Non-congregate meal service means meals are provided for children and the intention is for them to be consumed off-site. In other words, these meals are eaten in a location other than the SSO site. Non-congregate meal service is only allowable for sites that are designated as rural and when there are no congregate meal service options available to those households. A rural hybrid is going to be a site that operates congregate meal service for some meals or maybe on some specific days, but then they operate with non-congregate flexibilities for meals or on days when that congregate meal service is not being operated. There's a variety of ways that this can be implemented, and later on we will discuss some examples of why you might need to set up a site as a hybrid site. A couple more definitions. A rural designation is going to be any area that's not part of a metropolitan area, and these locations are going to be determined and documented using the USDA rural designation map. And this map has been updated, so it will look different than it did last year, but we'll be covering that a little bit later in this presentation. And when determining if a rural area is served by a congregate site, the SFA and you can work with the state agency to consider information about the existing congregate meal sites within that area, including but not limited to any potential physical conditions or barriers that might prevent households from having easy access to that site, or maybe a limited capacity of a congregate site that prevents it from serving a larger portion of the community. Or there might be sites that are serving the same children on different days or on different weeks for different meals, but on the same day. And then sites that are appealing to specific age groups or to children with unique dietary requirements. So let's look at an example of one of these with an activity. Would this be allowable or unallowable? Use your reaction buttons, thumbs up if it would be, surprise face if it wouldn't. A congregate site is operating across the street. It's a busy 4-lane highway from a non-congregate site at the same time and for the same meals. Would this be allowable? I'm seeing a lot of surprise faces, and this is one that you really need to consider those physical barriers as a potential factor here. It may or may not be. These sites would certainly be very close together, but is that 4-lane highway restricting access? You could operate a congregate site on the side that's a little bit more easy to access and then provide non-congregate meals on the other side of the highway that for those households that can't cross the highway to get to the congregate site. You just need to make sure that reasonably the same children are not being able to access both sites. So what are the requirements for a non-congregate site? First and foremost, you have to make sure the site is area eligible. It's very easy to confuse area eligibility with rural designation because if you're using the USDA census map, you could be looking at 2 maps for both of these. But remember, the area eligibility map and the rural map are not correlated in any way. So if the site is not area eligible, then you don't even need to worry about whether or not it's a rural designation because it's not going to be approved for SSO regardless of its rural status. If the site is area eligible, then the next step would be to look at that USDA rural map and reference whether or not that site could be considered rural non-congregate. Keep in mind that the intent is to provide meals to eligible children when congregate meals are not available as an option. And procedures must be established to ensure that these sites do not distribute more than the allowable number of reimbursable meals, so that's 2 meals per child per day, over the course of the intended calendar days that are being provided for a single distribution. So rural sites can look a lot like regular congregate sites, like Stephanie was walking through. They can be mobile routes, school sites, or community sites. With mobile routes, each stop on that route must be considered and approved individually, and you'll have to assess them for a rural designation, just like a congregate mobile route would have to be. for area eligibility. The only difference is that meals can be taken away from the site and be consumed at home. A school can be approved for non-congregate service, and children or parents or guardians can pick up the meals and take them off-site to be consumed away from the school. And you can also operate community sites like a library that's designated rural as a non-congregate site where the meals are picked up and again consumed off-site. And while these are hypothetical sites, it's important to point out that there is not a congregate meal service happening in tandem with any of the non-congregate meals that are being provided at these sites. So no meals are served and intended to be consumed on site in these examples at the same time. So now let's look a little bit deeper at the hybrid site requirements. And this is where site setup and meal distribution could be potentially confusing because of the flexibilities. A hybrid site is, again, one that serves congregate and non-congregate meals, but never at the same time or for the same distribution period. So they do have the same requirements as the other non-congregate sites, meaning that first and foremost, they have to be area eligibility. And then step number 2 is designating them as rural. The intent is still to provide meals to eligible children when congregate meals are not available. So there's no overlapping between those meals that are provided congregately and those that are served under non-congregate operations. And the site cannot distribute more than the allowable number of reimbursable meals per child. So the most important considerations for hybrid sites is that the site cannot operate congregate meal service at the same time that it's providing non-congregate meal service. The site must also prevent overlap between meal service and reasonably ensure that children are not receiving more than the daily maximum allowance of meals. So the key takeaway and most important point to keep in mind is that you're ensuring that the congregate service and non-congregate service are not going to provide meals to the same population of children for the same meals on the same day. So why would you need a hybrid site? What are some examples of why you might need one? Maybe there are limitations for public transportation. So for example, maybe public transport in your city only runs on certain days of the week. You might want to consider doing congregate meal service on those days where public transport makes it easier for households to access the site. And then you could give them non-congregate meals to take away from the site for those days that transportation makes it difficult to access the meal site. Or maybe attendance is consistently low on certain days, impacting ability and makes it difficult to operate in-person meal service, or maybe staffing shortages even that cause sites to close or be open less often. You could focus on congregate operations on days where staff can be present to help with meal preparation and distribution, while providing non-congregate meals for those upcoming days where staffing could be more limited. Maybe the site only operates as a non-congregate site 1 day per week, or for only part of the summer. The site could then operate non-congregate service during those other dates or times when it's not offering congregate meals. And again, we're going to keep reiterating that the key to keep in mind is that non-congregate meals can only be provided when no congregate meal service is available to households. So let's look at a few allowable examples for hybrid sites. In the first example, this is going to be a site that is serving the same population of students, but on different days. So breakfast and lunch is served congregately. Separately though, you have your separate breakfast service and separate lunch service on Monday through Friday. Then on Saturday and Sunday, meals are provided as non-congregate meals. So there's no overlapping of meals between those two services. You have Monday through Friday together and then Saturday and Sunday. The second example is serving the same children, but on different weeks. So for example, if there's a camp at a school site, maybe a pre-K camp getting them ready for kindergarten, and that's happening a week before school, and you're offering congregate meals to the students at this open site for the duration of that camp. Then you could still offer non-congregate meals for the following week up until the first day of school. The last example is going to be a site that serves the same students, but one meal for the day is congregate and the other is offered as non-congregate, such as a congregate breakfast with a lunch provided to take home as a non-congregate meal. I think perhaps more common what we see is a congregate lunch with a breakfast that's provided to be consumed the following morning non-congregately. So that congregate lunch is not overlapping with the non-congregate breakfast. So some unallowable examples. The first one is maybe a summer school site that offers congregate breakfast and lunch. And then at the same time that they're providing that congregate breakfast and lunch, they're providing non-congregate snack for the child to take home. These are 3 different meal services, so there's not an overlap between congregate breakfast and non-congregate breakfast. What's wrong with this is that they provided 3 meals and the maximum allowable number of meals per child is 2. And the last example that we have is a site providing congregate meals Monday through Friday. And at the same time, they're also providing non-congregate meals Monday through Friday. Once again, we're driving home and emphasizing that non-congregate meal service is only an option when there is no congregate meals available. Since congregate meals are an option and they're available at this site, then non-congregate meals cannot be offered in tandem to those congregate meals. And next, Stephanie is going to talk to us about how to determine some of these rural sites.
So earlier this year, USDA released the updated rural designation map, and it does appear to be more rural locations in Georgia on the updated version of the map than we had last year. And USDA plans to update the map annually by January 1st each year. So we may see some changes as the new maps roll out. And as Trey mentioned, in the updated map, the rural designation is not county-based. So it is based on the site's physical location. So you're going to have to search the address of each SSO site. And if the site is rural, it will be green, going to show in a green area. But if it's not considered rural, it will show in a white area. And documentation of rural designation must be maintained by the SFA. And then also on the slide is the web address to access USDA's rural designation map. And then here are the steps for locating the sites on a map. It's and we provided you again with the web address to the map. And then you must search by site address and note the color that the address is in on the map. And then for sites that are considered rural, you'll want to print the page or take a screenshot of the address of that map, what's on the map. And you want to be sure that you indicate the date that the screenshot was taken. And that's because your rural designation is good for 5 years, just like area eligibility. So we need to know the date that it was first established. And as Trey mentioned as well, rural designation cannot be extended to other sites like area eligibility. And the rural map is what's going to determine if a site location is rural. So on the slide, we have an example from a county in Southwest Georgia. You can see there is a small area of white in the middle of this large green area. And of course, the white is considered not rural and the green area is rural. We have 2 different school locations that we plugged into the mapper. And the first school is at the top. And you can see it looks like it's in the green. So we zoomed in so that we could see where the actual location was. So the circle to the left that's outlined, that area, you can see the arrow is pointing to that tiny dot that is right outside of that white area. So in this instance, this particular school is going to be considered rural. And if you notice in this circle that there is a little bit of white and then green, there's actually a highway that separates this white area from the green area. So literally, if we look at the second school, which is honestly not that far from the first school, and you go to the circle that's on the left, it's kind of hard to see in the big picture, so we zoomed in on it again. And that school's location, you have to look where the arrow is pointing to, is actually in the white area. So in this particular instance, you have a school site that would be rural and then a school site that is not rural. So just to recap, how to determine those rural designations, that you have to use each SSO site's address, and that includes the mobile routes, each stop along a mobile route. You must use the rural map, and you want to save your documentation from that. And then just remember those attendance zones do not apply like they do for area eligibility. So maintaining documentation for your rural designation, you want to have those screenshots or a printout from the map. And it is like those will need to be uploaded into Snow, and we'll get a little bit more into detail about that process. But as the SFA needs to maintain that documentation because that rural designation is good for 5 years. And then the state agency will have to maintain that as well. And now it's time for a question break.
So we did get one question. Thursday at summer school, can we send home Friday through Sunday breakfast and lunch?
Yes, that would be allowable, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those flexibilities in the upcoming slides for the rural non-congregate sites.
All right,
So Sarah,
thank you,
I'll turn it
Ro.
over to you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so I get the pleasure of talking about the meal service flexibility. So if you are, now that we've determined how to figure out if you're rural or not, these are the flexibilities that are available with non-congregate. So the additional flexibilities with non-congregate are multi-day unitized meal issuance for up to 10 calendar days, bulk meals for up to 5 calendar days, and parent guardian pickup. With the multi-day unitized meal issuance, weekend meals are included in those 10 calendar days. So in order to be approved to operate any of the non-congregate flexibilities, your district will have to provide assurances for how the SFA will ensure all of the requirements are met while operating these flexibilities. The SFA will be required to submit one plan that describes in detail which flexibilities the SFA desires to utilize for SSO sites and how they will be utilized. The assurances must adequately describe how the SFA will prevent duplicate meals, ensure meals are distributed to eligible children, and ensure food safety and food quality. You will be sent a link to the non-congregate assurances after today's training by your area consultant, and it will be completed in Microsoft Forms. So now we're going to discuss each flexibility and what must be included in the assurances in more detail. So the first flexibility we'll discuss is unitized multi-day meal service. So what is that? Meals are considered unitized when meal components are provided and packaged in amounts for a single meal. So the max number of meals that can be distributed at one time is 10 calendar days. And as we mentioned, this can include weekends. Only 2 meals may be provided per child per day, and there cannot be any overlap in service days. So an example of a unitized breakfast would include 8-ounce fluid milk, 1 ounce equivalent of cereal bowl pack, an ounce equivalent string cheese, and 1 cup of fruit. With multiple days, you would individually package each component or food item into the intended servings for each of those days and provide those to the households. The non-congregate assurances for unitized multi-meal service must sufficiently describe how food safety will be maintained and that the proper number of meals are distributed to eligible children. It must also ensure that the meal pattern is met daily and over the course of the week and includes whole grain rich and vegetable subgroups. So those must be met as part of your menus. If you desire to distribute 5 days or more of meals at one time, then you'll also need to provide a copy of your menu to your area consultant along with your non-congregate assurances for their review. So in addition, if you desire to serve 10 days of meals at one time, this could mean that meals would be distributed on different days each week. So if you wanted to cover all the days over the summer, it'll be extremely important that the communication plan for the community clearly describes when meals will be distributed. Because of the confusion that could result in meal distribution on different days each week, we really encourage you to consider no more than 7 days at one time. The SFA's plan for how to communicate with the community must be included as part of those non-congregate assurances. All right, so as we discussed, SFAs with rural sites are allowed to utilize the multi-day issuance options for SSO, and the SFA may only distribute at one time the allowable number of reimbursable meals that would be provided over a maximum of 10 calendar days. So we're going to review a few allowable scenarios. The first scenario is with 1 day a week meal distribution. So the first option would be that the SFA distributes meals for 5 or 7 days every, say, Monday, and this would allow anyone to come on Monday and pick up meals for that week. The next scenario is to have different pickup days for different last names. Although this is allowable, it can get very confusing for the community, and you would have to ensure that families aren't coming on multiple days to get meals for the same children. So this can get more confusing and would require clear communication on when the site would distribute to different people. So it'd have to be really well explained in your assurances. The next scenario is distribution twice per week. In this scenario, you could distribute 4 days of meals on Monday and then 3 days of meals on Friday to cover the whole week. And then the last scenario that's allowable is every 2 weeks. In this situation, you would provide 10 days of meals once every 2 weeks on the scheduled day. And districts considering this option really need to be sure that communication to the district, to families, is clear and that food safety and quality is maintained. All right, this slide shows some unallowable examples. Both of these scenarios are unallowable because they provide access to more than the allowable number of meals each day. So in the first scenario, they distributed 10 days worth of meals on the last day of SSO distribution, which was August 18th in this example, but then school started back up August 21st. So this is unallowable because students will have access to meals beginning again on August 21st. So to make this scenario allowable, they should have only provided 3 days worth of meals to cover the time between the end of SSO and the start of school. The next unallowable scenario is providing 10 days worth of meals every Friday. This is unallowable because they're providing more meals per day than allowed. So on the pickup day, the child would still have 3 meals left from the previous week. In order to make this allowable, they would need to change to no more than 7 days of meals at one time. The next flexibility that's allowed is to allow parents or guardians to pick up meals for eligible children. This allows you to distribute meals to parents or guardians to take home to children without requiring the child to be present. Parents and guardians are just that. So it's the parent or legal guardian. A guardian could also be somebody that is like babysitting or is supervising that child for that day. But that doesn't include like daycares or sports teams or anything like that. It really needs to be that smaller scenario where it's a parent or guardian or like a guardian for that day. If desiring to utilize this flexibility, the non-congregate assurances must describe how the SFA will ensure that meals are only distributed to parents or guardians of eligible children and prevent children from getting more than 2 meals per day. So some techniques that could help ensure parents and guardians understand how many meals are available and that per day is using signage that explains what's allowable. And we are creating some meal signage that will be available to help you with that. You can do communication blast to the community on what is allowable as part of your advertisement. You could utilize sign-in sheets. You could also have verbal discussions with families that come to pick up a meal. So those are just some different scenarios, and you may want to use more than one to help make sure that parents and guardians aren't picking up more meals during the week than they should. The next flexibility that is allowed is bulk meal service. So bulk food packages contain an amount of food that is more than what is required at a single meal under the National School Lunch Program and school breakfast programs under their meal patterns. A bulk food item may provide food to be eaten at more than one meal. So for example, a quart of milk provides 4 1-cup servings. So it would be a quart of milk would be a bulk food item that would provide milk for 4 meals. In order to utilize the bulk flexibility, no more than 5 days worth of meals can be distributed at one time. And the bulk food must ensure that the proper amounts of that food item are provided to ensure that reimbursable meals are planned and served to children. Bulk foods must be clearly identifiable as making up a reimbursable meal. And then if utilizing bulk foods, then you need to make sure that the packets include menus that describe which items are to be used for each meal and the portion sizes that are intended for each meal. So it needs to be very clear. Also, with bulk food items, they need to require minimal preparation and minimal addition of extra ingredients. So you need to consider factors such as food safety risks, access to kitchen appliances and cooking tools, and availability of the parent or guardian to assist with meal preparation. Some households may not have access to kitchen equipment. Some kids may be home by themselves and trying to prepare these meals on their own. So you really want to keep to foods that can just be heat and serve. In addition, bulk food items must meet the state and local health, safety, and sanitation standards. And you want to consider the shelf life of the foods and the potential for spoilage during those intended days of distribution. SFAs that desire to utilize the bulk meal flexibility must sufficiently describe in their non-congregate assurances how food safety will be maintained, the meal pattern is met, including the daily and weekly requirements such as vegetable subgroups and whole grain rich, that the proper number of meals are distributed to eligible children, and how households will be communicated with. The SFA must also provide a copy of the menu if bulk foods are intended to be distributed for any meal items. You are able to kind of do a mix of bulk and unitized. Well, this means that the use of bulk items could be paired with a unitized meal. So like having those individually portioned packaged foods for most of the components, but then providing beverages such as milk or juice in bulk with the unitized meal. That is allowable, but again, in this situation, it would be considered bulk meal service. So regardless of the number of days that you would be distributing at one time, a menu would still need to be provided for this and would need to demonstrate or describe how those items are intended to be utilized, how many days where they're supposed to be served with which meal. So now we're going to go through a few activities. So the first one, using your reaction buttons, a site operates a congregate breakfast and lunch Monday through Thursday and sends meals home on Thursday as rural non-congregate meal service for Friday through Sunday. Is this allowable? Thumbs up if yes, surprise face if no. Great job, everyone. I see a lot of thumbs up, and you're right. Yes, it is allowable. However, when you're looking at this, you need to make sure that the non-congregate meals would be distributed after the congregate meal service. Those kids would have to come back up to receive their non-congregate items for the Friday through Sunday meal service. And then, of course, they would be counted separately from your congregate meals. And then we have got just a couple poll questions for you. And this is just to determine what you all are thinking now that you've heard about these flexibilities. What are you considering using? If you're not considering using a flexibility or your sites are not considered rural, go ahead and select none. But otherwise, are you interested in using parent guardian pickup, the multiple unitized meals at one time, or both? Keep sharing those responses. There's no wrong answer. We're just trying to gather more information so we can help make sure that we can provide you the resources that you need to be able to operate these flexibilities. So go ahead and keep putting those responses in. Perfect. Thank you, Ro. So it looks like the majority of you are considering using both the parent guardian pickup flexibility and the multiple unitized meals at one time flexibility. And then the next highest one was not using a flexibility at all. So thank you all for those responses. We appreciate your feedback on what you're thinking. The next one is just another poll question. Just want to know how many of you are considering bulk meal service. Obviously, if you selected that you're not going to use a flexibility, you can go ahead and click no here. But if just curious as to how many of you are considering the use of bulk meal service.
All right, Sarah, you should see those final responses.
Thank you, Ro. I do. So it looks like the majority of you are not considering the use of bulk, but there are a few that are. And I know some of you may still be deciding what to do, and that's just fine. So at this point, we're going to take another chance for questions. Do y'all have any questions about these flexibilities? Okay, so do you have any suggestions on how we can ensure duplicate meals are not served? Any tips? You know, and this can be really difficult, and it's going to depend on what options you have within your district for seamless summer. But a lot of what we discussed earlier with the parent guardian pickup, sharing that they having signage out for how many meals are intended, making sure your communication plans to your community kind of describe what's intended. You can have conversations with the kids or parents and guardians at each site and talk about that it's 1 meal per day. You can use sign-in sheets. Those are all ways that you can help try to prevent multiple duplicate meals being served. Okay, so this next question was about when the USDA will be providing us the details of the proposed rule changes so we can plan for service after July 1. I'm assuming, Taylor, is that question related to the meal pattern and okay, so we haven't heard anything. As soon as we know something, we will share it. It'll probably be in a director's briefing as soon as we have that information, and Dr. Dodson will share that out via email as soon as we know anything. But at this time, we just don't know. It should be soon. They had anticipated spring, so we're kind of moving into that. So hopefully we hear something soon.
I can answer Keisha's question about a district considering multiple unitized meals and parent guardian pickup. How do you decide how many sets of meals parents or guardians are allowed to pick up at one time? That really depends on when your next meal distribution period is. Sarah had that example earlier of the calendar that showed they did 10 days of distribution, so they weren't operating again until that next 10-day period. So if you're providing 1 week at a time, maybe you're only going to operate on Mondays. You could give out 7 days worth of food, and then that next Monday you would give another 7 days. So it really just depends on what your operating days are.
The next question I see is, can buses deliver meals to homes? There is flexibility for delivery to homes. You'll work with your area consultant to determine if it's allowable in your situation and how that would work.
And the next question there, would it be appropriate if you're doing unitized meals to package them by temperature requirements, to put all the cold items in one bag and frozen items in one, and I guess room temp in another bag? And that is allowable, but you would want to provide a menu of what was supposed to be served for what meal periods with that. But that is a way that you can maintain food safety and food quality in doing it that way.
And then the next question, if my district is rural but not area eligible, can I do weekly meal pickups or bulk sites? Unfortunately not. That area eligibility is the first step. It's kind of the stopgap. If you are not area eligible, really it's inconsequential whether or not you are rural eligible. Your sites would not be able to be approved to operate Seamless Summer.
So we've talked about a lot so far, and there's a lot to consider. So now we're going to talk about the steps that you'll need to go through to get your sites approved. We've talked about area eligibility, site types, rural, non-congregate, and meal flexibilities. And those are all the decisions that you need to make prior to this point when setting up your sites to get approval so that they can be approved to operate. So we do have a new process because of the meal pattern flexibilities and the extra information that we're going to need from you on those non-congregate assurances that Sarah discussed. There is going to be a multi-step process for those non-congregate sites. If you are planning to operate congregate sites only, we ask that you enter those sites in SNO prior to May 17th, 2024 for your AC to approve those sites. If you are going to operate non-congregate or a mix of congregate and non-congregate sites, we're asking for a list of the sites along with their addresses and supporting documentation that shows both area eligibility and rural designation by April 12th. The non-congregate assurances will be sent by email to you by your AC. And again, it is in Microsoft Forms, so it'll be a link. And we're asking for you to complete that and submit that by May 1st. And then along with the congregate sites, we want you to enter that information in SNO by May 17th, after your AC has approved your non-congregate assurances. On the screen is sort of a best practice. This is an example of a way that you can submit that information to your AC for all your sites. So you could choose to do this in Word or Excel, include the site name, the address of the site, and you can place a screenshot of the USDA mapper where the site is located, or attendance zone information, and a screenshot from the rural designation map. This way, all of your information for your sites is contained in one document. It's easier for you to send to the AC, and it's also easy to upload into SNO. Sarah went into a great bit of detail on the non-congregate assurances, but just some things to reiterate. We are asking for one plan per SFA. Don't do multiple plans for different sites, just one for your whole SFA. If you do find that you need to make changes to the plan that you've already submitted, please work with your AC. Your AC can update that plan for you on your behalf, so work through them. And as you're answering those questions on which flexibilities you intend to use, make sure you're describing how those they will be utilized while maintaining the integrity of the program. Again, that Sarah's already discussed, making sure that you aren't serving duplicate meals, that their meals are going to eligible children, that you're maintaining food safety and food quality. Okay, using your reaction buttons with thumbs up if it's allowable and surprise faced if it's not. In this example, we have a school that has a congregate site where they're feeding Enrichment Summer School, and they're serving breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday. And they also are operating an open non-congregate meal pickup site Monday through Friday at the same time as the congregate meal service. Great. I'm seeing lots of surprise faces, and you are correct. It would not be allowable. Rural non-congregate meal service cannot be provided if congregate meal service is available. So in this example, congregate meals are offered at the same time in the same site, and so this is why it would not be allowed. Okay, in our next example, we have a community site, and it is a Vacation Bible School that operates on Wednesday nights. It provides a congregate meal while the children are there for Vacation Bible study, and then it sends meals home for non-congregate meal service for breakfast and lunch for Thursday through Tuesday and breakfast on that next Wednesday. Would this be allowed? Very good. I'm seeing lots of thumbs up, and yes, this would be allowable. And now I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie.
Thanks. So to wrap up our training today, we want to identify the next steps that our SFAs need to be working on as they prepare for Seamless Summer. And the first thing is, of course, to start identifying your sites and pulling that documentation together, your area eligibility, and then your rural destination if you're wanting to utilize those flexibilities. Determine what service methods are going to be utilized at your sites. And then if you are going to want those flexibilities, as you begin to work on your non-congregate assurances. And then we do have some options for sites that do not qualify for SSO. You could always continue to operate the National School Lunch Program. And if you wanted to utilize this option, you would need to certify and claim children by their eligibility. You would receive the reimbursement rate for the National School Lunch Program. And then you charge students for meals or either utilize a non-federal source to cover the difference. You could also do vended meals where the district would cover the cost, the full cost for the meals and the labor. And in this case, the meal pattern requirements would not apply because you're not claiming those meals for reimbursement. And then finally, we have some resources on our Seamless Summer website. You can use the QR code to access these memos, or you can navigate to the website using the pathway that's provided right up under the QR code. SP09 2017, it's a Q&A document, and it's an excellent resource for Seamless Summer. You can find it on our website, you can Google it, but we use it a lot at the state agency as we get questions in from districts to make sure we're providing the right information or the right response back. And then USDA has released 2 new resources that we've posted, and that's SP05 2024 and then SP13 2024. And those are both related to the rural non-congregant meal service. So please check those out, and again, let us know if you have any questions.
I see what Keisha's typed in there. So really, there is not a maximum number of meals as long as you conceivably think that those meals are going to eligible children at that home. You do have the ability to set up in your assurances whether or not you want them to fill out some kind of a sign-in sheet or a roster so that you can keep track of those, especially if you do question someone coming to pick up a lot of meals. That flexibility is only for parents and guardians, so it's not for a daycare to come and pick up a bunch of meals. So if you do suspect something like that is going on, then just do your due diligence to research it a little bit. But there is not a maximum as long as they're going to eligible children.
And too, I think through the signage you post, you know, and Sarah, it was either Sarah or Trey, I believe, talked about the new signage that was going to be available soon. And, you know, I believe we have a statement on there about, you know, 1 meal per child per day kind of thing. So you're doing, you know, those would be some other ways that you could try to help ensure that they're not overtaking meals or taking more meals than necessary.
The next question I see is, once I get the rural map, how do I print out that to submit? So you may end up doing like a screenshot or a print screen of that on your computer, and then you can copy it into another document. Just put the date that you pulled it there so that we have can track that date. Like Stephanie said, that's good for 5 years, and so you want to maintain when it was pulled.
Okay, so how can I find out if there are other summer programs operating near me? You can use the Food Finder map to search for other programs that are operating that you don't operate yourself to see where those are located.
The next one was about clarifying the difference between bulk and unitized meals. So it is possible to do a combination of unitized and bulk together. That would still be classified for us as bulk meal, so a menu would be necessary to be able to see it. When you get into that 7 days, we really have to look at it in more detail, but when you utilize bulk in any form, really the max that will allow is 5 days. So really the difference is bulk is providing some food items in a bulk form. So it's not, so like, for example, with the milk, providing a quart of milk provides 4 cups of milk versus providing 4 1-cup cartons. So that would be kind of the difference with that.
The next one, would I be able to operate a non-congregate meal service on Mondays for 7 days and then go to another location in the county on Tuesday and serve for 7 days? You could, but it really, you really need to make sure that you are serving different groups of children and that there isn't any duplication of meal service where the same household is getting meals in both locations. So it would determine, I mean, it would depend on where those sites are located and different things like that. So you would have to put those guardrails in place to make sure that you're not serving the same group of children.
The next one I see is, does any non-congregate site require an assurance to be completed even if it's not using any of the flexibilities? Yes, because non-congregate itself is a flexibility. So you might not be using multiple, distributing multiple days at one time. You may not be doing parents guardian pickup or bulk, but you are wanting to utilize non-congregate meals, allowing the student to come like at that meal service time and take that meal off site. And that does require that specific assurances be filled out. So there are questions, there are guided questions with the non-congregate assurances that help you figure out which questions you need to answer to be able to be approved for how you want to operate.
And will there be seamless summer site banner yard signs available? We will have signage available. We'll have some for congregate sites and some for non-congregate sites available. And those should be available pretty soon that you can go to our website to access and customize for your use.
And if a daycare wants to get meals and they bring the children to the site, then that absolutely would be allowable. If you're operating a rural non-congregate site, those children can take the meals off-site with them since they came and they were present when they picked up the meals. You just couldn't have the person that's running the daycare come as the parent or guardian of those children and then take all those meals back to the daycare.
I will go ahead and share the learning code associated with today's training. Of course, the event name is Seamless Summer Option Training, Part 1. The date, March 13th, it qualifies for 2 credit hours under the learning code 3220, Standardized Operating Procedures. And we also want to take an opportunity to announce the upcoming availability of office hours for this particular session, Seamless Summer Option Office Hours. We want you to mark the date, March 25th at 2 p.m. It'll be another opportunity for you to come and ask questions that you may have related to Seamless Summer. If you are not able to, you want to take an opportunity to synthesize and process whatever questions you may have, we will create an opportunity on March 25th for us to reconvene and just, you can ask questions about SSO. When the recording is available, that registration for that particular office hour will be made available with the recording. So stay tuned into your emails from, it will come from Dr. Dotson. So we want to let you know that this opportunity will be made available to you very soon. All right, so at this time, we'll close out our session. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions at this time. As always, we encourage you all to like, follow, and engage. If you joined us earlier, you heard that the Fuelcast episode highlighting some of the Georgia students. We encourage you to visit our website and click the anchor icon where you can find all 3 seasons and share those episodes. They're a wonderful community engagement tool to help people have a heightened awareness about school nutrition. If you aren't already following us on social media platforms, we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share some of the wonderful activities that are happening in your district, please send an email to fuelingga@godot.org. And as always, we encourage you to become friends with our website, snp.godot.org. Make sure you bookmark it and become familiar with it. There are so many resources and tools there to support you in your daily operational needs. So we thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to the next opportunity to connect and learn and grow together. Have a wonderful day.